in their own words. In 2011, 55 students at the University of Birmingham disclosed autism. By 2015, the number who had disclosed more than doubled to 120. This growth in numbers is set to continue, and as a significant number of students opt not to disclose, we should assume the total number of autistic students to be higher still. This video comes from some current students at the university who participated in a CLAD-funded project, AuVision. Here, they share their experiences on what has been most helpful to them at university. Student introductions.
My name is Callum. I studied a Masters for Chemistry and it was a 4-year-long course, and I've recently finished my course, so I'm about to graduate.
I'm Michaela. I'm studying a Masters in Literary Linguistics part-time. I'm in my 2nd year.
I'm John. I've just finished my 1st year of a political science BA.
My name's Vicky Taylor and I'm a 1st year student doing distance education, doing a Masters in Inclusion and Special Educational Needs.
My name is Michael. The course I'm doing at the university currently is Maths. I'm 3rd year, going to 4th year. We'll be doing Integrated Masters.
My name's Jo, and I'm a distance student studying autism in adults as a distance education module.
Enthusiasm for learning. People on the autism spectrum always keep learning. Temple Grandin, autistic author.
There's good points about having autism, like I'm very creative and I can hyper-focus. Even though I struggle with concentration, I can hyper-focus and then I don't struggle with concentration at all.
You're here because you want to learn. If you weren't good enough for university, you wouldn't be here.
On the positive side, how my autism affects me as a student is that you get a really dedicated, enthusiastic student. It's my special interest area, doing autism, and you don't really have to ask me to go off and read.
I'd really encourage all lecturers to make themselves as approachable as possible to students who are, certainly in my case, incredibly enthusiastic and really do want to do as well as possible and actually have a really intense interest in the topic.
Takeaways. Autistic students can be amongst the most enthusiastic in your group. Their studies will often be their passion, whilst the social aspect of studying may be the most challenging for them. They may need you to approach them rather than wait for them to approach you. Minimising anxiety. Autistic students typically experience much higher rates of anxiety than others, although this may not be obvious to staff. Increased rates of depression and suicide are reported, especially for individuals with Asperger syndrome who are likely to be diagnosed later in childhood.
I sometimes find myself being a little bit withdrawn, like maybe I find it difficult to go out and go into social events, searching it out myself.
Where autism can affect me negatively is that sometimes I find it hard to communicate my needs. I find it hard to ask for help or to realise that there are other people at the university who know an answer or would know how to support me through a particular topic or a particular issue within a piece of coursework.
Staff need to know that sometimes I feel overwhelmed, but I won't necessarily tell you that I feel overwhelmed because I don't always realise that it's okay to be, to have a break in points sometimes.
Another thing that I'd like staff to know about supporting students with autism is that generally when we get very stressed we can often struggle to process verbal information. So that means that around obvious times of stress, things like Freshers' Week, exams, coursework and assignment deadlines, it's often much better to communicate electronically or in a visual way. And it's around these times of high stress that it's really important that things like lecture slides are up on Canvas as early as possible.
Sometimes I start comparing myself to other people or to the ideal version of me, which doesn't exist. Like I say, I should be like this, and actually we're all different and we all have different strategies for coping with things. I was speaking to my dissertation supervisor the other day as I was worried that I was like really behind, but she set me straight and she said that actually I'm on the right track, and that she's had worse students than me, so that was a relief. I feel like sometimes I need another perspective other than myself, otherwise it's looking into a warped mirror all the time.
A lot of people on the autism spectrum experience something called a shutdown, which is when a person is facing extreme emotional turbulence or changes. They tend to just shut everything down and stop communicating with everybody or anybody around them.
The biggest difficulties, I suppose, are during the study weekends. We have 2 of those a year, and they can be extremely intense and very busy. You're often in a large room where there are a lot of people milling about, and I can get a bit overwhelmed and confused by what's going on when that's happening.
Takeaways. Struggling students might find it hard to ask for help. Checking in with them can overcome this. Quiet students may actually be overwhelmed students. Providing information in different modes can make it much more accessible for students experiencing stress. Use Canvas and email to communicate key information. Be aware of potential social challenges and social isolation. Making adjustments. In many cases, it is not so much that adjustments have to be made, but rather that autistic people need to be allowed to use the strategies they have.
One thing about my autism that affects me is that sometimes when I see other people writing down like around me, I sometimes fear that I'm not really doing anything or doing as well as they can because they're writing and I'm not. I sometimes think that they know all the answers and I don't. But when I'm in a separate room and I'm just given extra time to think things through by myself, that's something that can help me.
Having written in my student support plan that if I needed extra time to complete an assignment has turned out to be really, really necessary.
There are situations where reasonable adjustments made by the university have helped me, and they're all to do with exams. So extra time and a separate room with rest breaks.
Having a quiet room to come out to when it gets too much in the lecture theatre is really, really useful. Also meeting the tutors and the lecturers at the beginning of the course.
Sometimes it's just useful to just be aware of what an autistic experience is. Sometimes you will need to do something. Sometimes just being aware that a certain student is under a significant amount of stress is enough for the student.
Takeaways. Ask what might help. A separate room for exams, extra time and rest breaks are simple adjustments that can make a huge difference. Read the student's reasonable adjustment plan. Make sure everyone relevant, including administrators, has the key information and discuss the plan with your student so that you can both understand what it means in practice. Providing separate, quiet spaces can really help with alleviating stress and sensory challenges. Be aware. Look out for the key stress points in your course and consider how your student can best be supported to manage these. Taking an inclusive curriculum approach. An inclusive curriculum moves from responding to the additional needs of individuals to recognition of the diversity of the whole student population. This may require a shift in approach, but can be achieved with relatively little resource, and the benefits outweigh the costs, since there will be fewer additional support needs and better outcomes.
One of the aims I have for my teaching is to be inclusive of all students, whether they have an acknowledged disability or not. And one way I've found to do this with individuals with autism is to offer a group activity whereby the aim of their work is to give a short presentation. So the task is the same for every student, They can work in groups, but if they need to, they can work as individuals.
For example, group work, the more structure you can bring into that, the easier it is for, not just for the autistic students, but also for many of the other students who might feel more comfortable if I put them in a group with 3 and give them all a specific role, rather than just saying, work together,
If I were to think of my teaching overall, what working with students with autism has given me has been a greater sense of how we need to adjust to each student's, no matter whether they have autism or not, each student's model of learning. As teachers, we can sometimes be drawn to having a single way of teaching for all students. What working with students with autism has given me has been insights into the range of models of learning that individuals have. And in fact, each student within a group will have their own particular model of learning about which tutors need to become familiar.
Birmingham is the second biggest city in the country and one of the most diverse. We feel that inclusivity is important both for staff and for students. Traditionally, the approach to inclusivity has been to sort of single off different groups and give them sort of special provisions. And while that's a really important step in terms of recognising that not everyone learns in the same way, it's actually better to make the classroom space a place where different people can engage in different ways rather than there just being one single way of learning. And if you don't fit that mould, then you're not welcome within the university space. And that's what we're trying to change. It also has lots of benefits for staff as well, because a diverse teaching environment and a curriculum that brings in lots of different perspectives is also just more interesting to teach.
Takeaways. Be aware that students have different strengths and an approach that can respond to these will get the best results. Provide a clear structure and make it known to your students. Our university has a student population that is diverse in language, culture and learning needs. These inclusive curriculum strategies will benefit all your students, not only those who've disclosed autism. Genuine equality means not treating everyone the same, but attending equally to everyone's different needs.